2021 has to be a good year because it will finally bring the crazy wait for Marvel's Phase 4 to a close. Marvel fans have a good reason to bring in the new year with a magical indoor celebration, which is more officially known as WandaVision. The Disney Plus series will get a January release and will kick off an epic branch of the MCU that holds the highest stakes of superheroes, villains, and universes that Marvel has ever shown us on the screen. 2019 was one big baller of a year for Marvel films, but I would have bit my popcorn dispensing hand in the Far From Home movie hall if someone had told me it was the last MCU film I would watch in the movie theater for a long time. Global health crisis or not, the Marvel movie timelines have never been my favorite thing to keep up with, and all the delays caused by the stupid pandemic have now riled things to make as much sense as the plot of Endgame. But seriously, if you've been keeping track of the MCU release dates, you know that every installment was delayed at least 2 times to keep up with the coronavirus crisis. But WandaVision, ladies and gentlemen, is the glowing orb of hope that will hit the Disney Plus catalog in January 2021 to set the ball rolling for Marvel's highly anticipated 4th phase. While it may seem that WandaVision is the best choice to begin Phase 4 with because it's releasing on a streaming platform, there is much more to the incredible mutant sorceress that makes her the segue to all the other Phase 4 shows and movies. Kevin Feige told us in 2019 that the show will directly connect to Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. This will be the first time that the MCU will truly dip its toes in the conceptual waters of a multiverse and plunge into a whole different metaphysical world than the one we've seen so far. The idea of a multiverse has been brewing in the Marvel comics for a long time, and the fact that the next Doctor Strange movie is named after it is a direct sign of its cinematic debut. And more evidence has been piling up to prove that Wanda Maximoff will be the key to a huge change to the very fabric of the Marvel Universe. This likely explains the surprising returns of characters like Jimmy Woo, Darcy Lewis, and Monica Rambeau, whose roles don't seem to have clear consequences for the upcoming movies. In the MCU timeline, WandaVision begins after the devastating events of Avengers Endgame. This means that Vision was either brought back to life after his death, or that the show exists in some alternate version of reality in which Wanda and Vision live out their days together, like Steve Rogers and Peggy Carter. But hold up, because this one is not as blatantly oversimplified as Captain America's happy ending. This Wanda theory stems from an elaborately crafted comic book storyline with tremendously huge repercussions for the entire Marvel multiverse, and it's called House of M. And the top WandaVision speculation is that the Disney Plus show might actually be a cleverly planned House of M adaptation. Screen Rant actually has a very interesting video on House of M alone that you might want to check out later, but the short version of the story is this. Wanda uses her astonishing powers to completely rewrite the universe into a reality in which there's a massive threat to mutant kind. This results in the mutants receiving international protection and reduces the human population to a class of inferior beings. And as much as we all enjoy taking digs at powerless mortals, there's too much evidence in pop culture to say that a conflict involving humans is anything but bad news. The Thor movies subtly brought in the idea of alternate dimensions into the Marvel Universe, which was then expanded by the Doctor Strange and Ant-Man movies. That's when we knew that Marvel was quietly seeding the multiverse concept into its fabric, while audiences indulged its wild conceptual joyrides of time loops, Pym particles, and the weird apocalyptic blob that was Dormammu. But it's safe to say that Dormammu was only the beginning of the wacky interdimensional madness that lives and breathes in the MCU. Wanda's ties to Doctor Strange have obviously set off a range of theories outlining the exact nature of their connection, and a common villain in the form of Nightmare is just one of them. In the comic book lore, Nightmare is the ruler of Nightmare World, which itself is part of the Dream Dimension, and is exactly the kind of edgy cosmic teapot that Wanda could get a handle on to manipulate reality. Disney's acquisition of Fox finally unraveled the tricky legal ties that had previously kept the mutant world away from the MCU's reach, so this could be the perfect way to tap into those mutant abilities that Marvel had not been able to show in Elizabeth Olsen's Scarlet Witch. There's a lot of talk about the potential ways in which Wanda Maximoff and her powers will continue to manifest in the MCU, and all of this is very important indeed, but let's not forget that everyone's been waiting on WandaVision for Wanda herself. The reality-bending powers of Scarlet Witch come from an entity called Chthon in the original storyline, and the many ways in which they shape her character have been explored very imaginatively. Every comic book fan who knows Wanda's arc well knows that the cost of controlling reality comes with one caveat: that reality controls you back. Because she can potentially change everything about the world that she doesn't like, Wanda Maximoff is always at the risk of going mentally off balance. One version of this plays out in the comic books, when she desperately wants to have children with Vision, and her fraught mind ends up creating an illusion of having kids. This may not be the direction in which the WandaVision plot will want to head, but it makes a good example of just how precarious Wanda's powers are nonetheless. Scarlet Witch looks primed to make an appearance in the Multiverse of Madness, so we can assume that WandaVision will be the launch pad that factors her into the Doctor Strange narrative. Disney Plus will also bring Tom Hiddleston into its fold by giving us Loki sometime in the future, and he might peek into Thor: Love and Thunder in turn. This makes the wait for WandaVision all the more painful, but there's a version of reality in which it's already been released. It's called The Future.
I don't know why everyone believes that, but that isn't true.
That caps off my time with you guys in this video. Make sure that you're subscribed to Screen Rant if you like our content, and give us a comment below about what you would like us to explore in our next videos. See ya!